So we'll jump straight into it. These questions were submitted by students, and some of them were just kind of questions we came up with. But hi, everyone. Glad that you guys are here at 7:30 on a Wednesday night on another Zoom call because I feel like that's kind of where we're at these days. Everybody loves another Zoom call. But just to kind of set the stage for everybody, I'm Bethany Green. I get to advise the Alternative Breaks program, and so obviously this year with COVID, we've had quite a challenge trying to get the program up and running. It's hard to travel, and it's hard to really be engaged when things are virtual, but um, we didn't want to drop the ball, and so we wanted to let you guys hear from some of our alumni who have graduated from UNA, who have been part of the program for a long time. And so with us, we have Kiana Mitchell and we have David Johnson. And so I am going to let you guys start. Kiana, if you would like to start first, just sharing a little bit about you. And then David, you can go after her, and then we'll jump into some of what these questions are.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All righty, sounds good. So, like she said, everyone, hello. My name is Kiana Mitchell. So I graduated from UNA in 2018 with my bachelor's degree in political science. I'm currently in law school. I go to Faulkner, the Jones School of Law in Montgomery. But I was a site leader for Alternative Breaks in 2017. I started out as a participant. So I was a participant in 2015 and I loved it so much, I had to go back and I wanted to serve as a site leader. And it was just one of the most rewarding and life-changing experiences that I had at UNA. And I would really just encourage anyone to get involved in the program because it literally changed my life. So that's me.
Thanks, Kiana. David, how about you?
Yeah, so my name's David Johnson. I graduated from UNA in 2014. I have a bachelor's in interdisciplinary studies with a concentration in social and behavioral sciences. I was actually fortunate enough to be one of the founding members of Alternative Breaks. Back then, we actually called it Alternative Break Board. And since then, I've been able to watch the program grow from a student and then also as a staff member at the university. And then now that I'm no longer even a part of the university anymore, being able to contribute with things like this and working with Bethany has just been wonderful. And I'm really happy to be here and talk to you guys tonight.
Thanks, David. Okay, so the first question for you guys is, did you know what social justice was? And Kiana, you and I have touched on this a little bit already, but did you know what it was when you were getting into college? And if you didn't, how long did it really take for you to really realize that this is kind of the thing that you really wanted to spend your time in? And Kiana, we'll let you start again.
Yes, so I did know what social justice was going into college. That's kind of what led me to majoring in what I did because I've known since I was like 12 that I wanted to be an attorney. And the experiences that I had surrounding social justice issues is what led me to that decision. So social justice is basically just, making sure that everyone has equal access to across the board. So whether that's in healthcare, education, the criminal justice system, all these different systems, we want people to have equal access. And so my experiences early on, way before college, let me know that I needed to be involved in the social justice movement.
Awesome. David, how about you?
Yeah, so a little different. I had no clue what social justice was. I had probably never even heard the term before. I had some ideas about the rudimentary basics of social justice and had been involved in those along the way, but had never really put the terminology to use because all my life I always questioned why, or questioned when I saw injustice or things that I didn't think were fair. I think that's an accurate word to describe, me as a child and an adolescent, not really understanding the big scope, but just knowing that certain things in life weren't fair. And the way that I think about social justice is justice meaning fairness. And then, social justice as the fairness as it manifests in our society. So just, the very basics, little seedlings of, the foundation of social justice I understood, and I knew that it was something that I was passionate about. But it wasn't until the university and I started working with alternative breaks that the full scope and the full ideal of social justice really came to the front for me.
Sure, absolutely. And that's kind of Kiana and I were talking about, like, it has to start somewhere. Like we all started somewhere at some point. So what exactly got you guys interested in alternative breaks? What was it that kind of drew you to that? And I anticipate these being very different answers, with David, you being a founding member of alternative breaks. So for you, really, what made you want to be part of getting something like that started? But we'll go with you on this one. So what made you really want to get alternative breaks going and be kind of part of that? And then Kiana, for you, what really made you even want to get involved in the first place?
So I was working in the Office of Student Engagement at the time as a student assistant, and one of my friends had, kind of started to spearhead the conversation about starting the Alternative Breaks board at the time. There was other universities that were involved that she had heard about, and so she started spearheading getting the organization off the ground. And we were fortunate enough to have staff members in that office who were involved with it as well. And I think that for me, I was kind of looking for that kind of opportunity. I know that the university at the time had a wealth of organizations that could focus on social justice issues and the type of initiatives. But I think what drew me initially to the alternative breaks is the scope of everything, how they, it just wasn't a trip that you went on and did some volunteer work and came back. There was a full program revolved around it about how we could bring it back to our community, and the fact that we weren't just focusing on the surface issues. We weren't just band-aiding the issues. We were getting into the education of what is behind the issue to get to the actual core, and to be able to come back from the trip and speak with education on the issue, not just going and doing the work that we had to do, but it was more of an educational program, which my curious mind, I always wondered, what are causing these things? This just can't come out of nowhere. So I think that component of AB is really what interested me, that it wasn't just a weekend trip. It was actually something that I could carry that experience with me and share through someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Kiana, what made you want to get involved?
So I've been sitting here racking my brain, trying to remember what led me to get involved. I really do not. I know that there were like flyers and a lot of emails being sent out, and I really wanted to get involved in something because I had just got turned down for like SGA. So I really wanted to be a part of something, and I just kept seeing these flyers everywhere. And I think just, that's what led me to it. Just like you said, the curiosity, and wanting to be a part of something really. And I got what I was asking for because I actually met my lifelong college friends through this trip. And so it was just, it was just happenstance, I suppose, because there was really nothing really pushing me towards it. I guess it's just all the flyers and wanted to be a part of it. Just anything with the university I wanted to be, a part of. And so that just happened to be where I fell, and I fell in love with it. So
Yeah, it sounds like you already had that social justice mindset, and so it kind of seems like it was the perfect fit.
it definitely was.
Yeah. Um, Well, so let's get a little more specific. So I would love to hear from you guys on, so when we, and for those of you who are on the call and those of you who watch the recording who aren't familiar with alternative breaks, we say things like trips and social justice and programs and things like that. And ultimately what it is we take university breaks and get students out of their comfort zones to be able to focus on specific social topics that are happening in the world. So, we've done things from human trafficking awareness and prevention to homelessness and poverty to community development to, you name it. I feel like we've done it at some point or another. I know there's many that we have not focused on yet. So lots of work to be done. And then when we say trips, we've traveled as far as Huntsville to Atlanta to the Dominican to Honduras. So whether it's more of a global focus or a very local focus that we feel like we already know, it's diving into that community and really trying to understand that particular topic that we're focusing on a deeper level while getting us out of Florence, Alabama and out of our comfort zones so that we can see the things that we're trying to focus on a little bit more, and kind of put those distractions aside and that type of thing. So for the two of you, more specifically, if you guys will share a little bit about whether it's some of the trips that you've been on or specific moments that stood out on those trips, and areas of focus for the ones that you've participated in and that kind of thing. Just a little bit more on a specific level of what your involvement looked like. And Kiana, we'll start with you again.
Okay, so like I said, I did start out as a participant on the trip. So both times, though, the issue that I focused on was homelessness. So when I went as a participant, we went to Atlanta. We stayed at Safe House Outreach, which is a homeless shelter in Atlanta. They provide like a hand up instead of a handout, and so I really liked their mission. And when I went back as a site leader, we stayed there again, and the focus was pretty much the same. Just on eradicating and diminishing homelessness. So we did a lot of different things that really opened my eyes. Like I was, like I said, I was already pretty familiar with social justice issues, but it's really different when you're, boots on the ground in the trenches, with like we literally were. So we stayed overnight at the homeless shelter, and then we took to the streets at night to do different outreach efforts. We had cookouts and barbecues in the park. I mean, we really got to know the community. And so that's really what it's about, is just not going into the community as an outsider. If you're going to go in, you need to do the work to learn the community and kind of integrate yourself into the community so that they can trust you enough to seek out your assistance. So that was the biggest part for me, is just learning how to be authentic and really connect with the people that you're serving.
Yeah, and I remember you guys had a really great opportunity kind of sleeping in the space that you were also serving in, which I think is impactful.
Very much so. Like,
yeah. David, what about you?
Oh, goodness. My first trip was AB's first international trip. So it was very exciting. We went to the Dominican Republic. We worked with Outreach 360 in a rural fishing community called Monte Cristi. And we spent the days working in after-school programs to teach English literacy. And so we were assigned classrooms from kids ranging in all ages, and it was up to us to kind of put together the lesson plans and to work as a team in this small community. And it was so nice because we were staying at Outreach 360's occupation that they had there, and it was right across the street from the schools, and it was right in the town square. And so all the kids would come play in the square after the class was over, and so we really got a feel of the community. And it's like we were there, immersed in their culture, living as they do day to day, which is one of the things that I love so much about A, B in their trips is typically if it's if it makes sense to do so, we typically, where we did house the students in very similar housing or in very similar geographic area as the people that we're helping. So it kind of puts us on the same playing field so we can see what they're doing in their day-to-day lives and kind of live in their footsteps as they do. I did another one as a student in Huntsville, Alabama, where we were primarily focusing on homelessness and poverty, and similar to what she was saying. We worked in the homeless shelter and we slept on a gym floor when we were there that weekend. So same philosophy. And then as a staff member, I was at the university. I was very fortunate enough to be able to chaperone some trips, and there were a couple of those. We took a group of students to New York City where we worked with Junior Achievement of New York, which is an organization that focused primarily on financial literacy. And the range from that goes from elementary school all the way through high school. And so we were actually in the classroom every day at a school in the Bronx. And so we got to divide up and we were in the classroom teaching the program that Junior Achievement had set out for us to teach. And we had to commute like New Yorkers. I mean, it was a train ride, a subway ride, and a bus ride to get to the school that we were teaching at every day. So it's about an hour and a half commute, which was really eye-opening for a lot of students who had never been to New York and had never experienced that. And then there was the trip that I took with you to Haiti to work with community development in my beloved town of Dessab. And I think that all of my trips have been so impactful, and I've had something to take away from each one. But I think the thing that I loved about Haiti is we truly were living where they live. We were in their community. We were talking to the community leaders. We were talking to the educators there. We were talking to people of social standing in the community to see truly what the needs were. I think another reason I like that so much, and you may agree with me, it was kind of a investigative type of trip. We were there to fact find. We were there to really determine what their needs were so we could better focus on them in the future. And then the cooperative that came after it with the university, with working with the nurses and the educators there, you could really see the program come full circle in that project, which I really loved. And then I think the last trip I chaperoned was to Maryville, Tennessee, to work in nature conservation and Native American tribes up there, and a lot of weed pulling to remove invasive species. So that was one of the more hands-on, get your feet and your hands dirty type of trips. Stayed in little cabins with outhouses and stuff. So it's just no matter where, the thing that is so wonderful to me is that no matter where we go, if it's a domestic trip, if it's just a trip to Huntsville, or if it's a trip halfway over the world, there's some kind of different experience that comes from each one. Even if the focus of all the trips is homelessness or poverty, no matter where you go, it's a different story. It's a different tale that the people have to tell, and you can always take away something different from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love hearing the two of you recap your stories because I feel like I get to live vicariously through y'all all over again. But so one of the biggest pieces that I think is really easy for anyone to think about is trips like this usually kind of feel like voluntourism,
Yeah.
especially the short term, like one off. We went, we did this great thing, and then we go home.
Yeah.
And so obviously both of you guys know that that's ultimately not the goal.
Mm-hmm.
And so how would you say that what you've done with alternative breaks has carried over, whether it was after you got back home from your trip and while you were still in college, or even carried over after you've graduated from UNA and kind of continued some of that work? Kiana, we'll start with you again.
Yes, and so just to kind of recap a little bit, when we go to these trips, we want to listen to the community and be led by them and their needs. We don't want to go in with our own idea of what we feel is going to be best for them, and because that's disempowering to the community that you're serving. And so when I was a site leader, I really tried very hard to make sure that my participants were educated about the things that we were going to do. I mean, of course, I had an agenda for what we would do when we got there, but um, those things can always shift depending on what the community is looking for, what they need, and all of that. So I just wanted to really let them know that we're not on any type of saviorism agenda. We're not here to save or rescue anyone. We are here to to lift them up and empower them and assist them however we can. So I think that's a big part of it, is just educating the participants so that they know this should not be a one-time thing. And I feel like I did a pretty good job of, making them want to reach out more and educate themselves more about this issue. I still keep in touch with a lot of my participants, and I'm pretty sure that they're still involved in social justice work as well. So that's a bonus. As far as me, it has carried over into my life in so many ways. Like my current profession, like I said, I'm in law school, so I want to be an advocate for other people. But I also serve currently as an advocate, like as my work. That's what I do. So I'm an advocate for victims of domestic violence right now. And then I'm also a board member for a racial justice organization here in Florence, Alabama. So that organization is all about uplifting the community, empowering the community, gauging the community's needs to figure out what we need to do and how we need to move. So we listen to be led. And that's what this work is all about. When you're going in and you are coming from a place where you may have a little bit of privilege or power, you always want to make sure that you leverage that by listening to the people that you're serving. So that's how it's translated over into my daily life, just making sure that I am being responsive to the community and just doing my part.
Yeah. David, how about you?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, when they sign up for AB, they might think it is kind of, a volunteerism type thing. But, what is so great about the program is, we go for a week or a weekend, but what people don't see behind the scenes is the weeks of education leading up to the trips, the weeks of meetings where we go over the demographics of the type of people we'll be working with, situations that might come up during the trip, because we try our best, and I think we do a very stellar job at being educated and using that education so that we're not offensive to the people that we'll be working with, because I think it can be a double-edged sword. Kind of like she touched on, you can go in with an idea of what you think the people that you're helping need, and that could be completely different from what their actual needs are or what's important to them. So I think that I know personally students that I've taken on trips, they'll come in, thinking, oh, this is going to be, a great vacation and stuff. And even though that they come in with that mindset, which there's nothing wrong with that, it changes their opinion. I've seen it so many times that once they get immersed in the program and once they truly understand and they meet the people and they meet people who are also involved with the cause that we're working for, they have a change of mind. And that might not be something that they carry out the rest of their life. Not everyone's meant to be gung-ho and all the time, but that experience that they had and that education that put something in the back of their head, it maybe changed their view of people who experience homelessness. It might lead them to, when they're having a conversation with someone and says something that may be prejudiced or, maybe not based in fact. They have that knowledge to educate that person. They have that knowledge to say, hey, I actually worked with this, and, these are actually the issues that are at hand. So I think even if they just come away with that little bit of knowledge and they're willing to share it with someone and to see that issue through their own experience, I think that the program was well served. Now, as far as, like people who are really involved and who really understand it, and that's something that's a passion of theirs that they would like to continue in life. I think, one of the components is bringing it back to our own community. What needs can we identify in our own community that are very similar to the ones that they experienced on their trip? And I think, when you have that mindset and when you've been exposed to it, and we all have our own prejudices, they may be, um, and it's kind of like Oprah calls the aha moment. Like, oh, I didn't realize I had all these preconceived notions. And so I think even if you just go throughout your day-to-day life, being aware of that and being an advocate and an educator for the causes that you're passionate about and the causes that you've worked hand in hand with, I think that's doing the service that the program intended for us to do. And so in my day-to-day life, I try to look for opportunities. I'm not on the front lines every day like I might want to be. But during my day-to-day activities and everything that I do, I try to look for solutions. I try to look for opportunities where I can be an advocate, where I can provide my platform, whether it be my platform at work or my platform in my social circles or, social organizations that I'm part of. I think that is my current mindset and how I currently still continue with what I learned and what is also fulfilling my passion as well. Because not only are we helping, or the organization rather is helping the people that we set out to, it's helping the students and it's helping the participants to help give them the knowledge and to help, get them to learn more about themselves as they go through the program, not just about the causes. And I think just that continuation of if they learn something, then they're doing the program justice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, service can look like a variety of things. Is there something like, because I know for me going into college, we didn't have an AB program, and so to me, service was still just volunteering. But we're realizing that service can be advocacy, service can be activism, service can be sharing something on Facebook. That is educating another person. Like Kiana said, service can be listening. Is there something for you guys where even your involvement, regardless if it was alternative breaks or some other type of social justice work, is there something where service really stood out as something you didn't really realize that was also considered service at the same time? And David, do you want to start this one?
Yeah. So basically recapping just something that I do or discovered that I wouldn't have thought was being service work. Okay. That's a very interesting question. And I think really kind of to piggyback on what I said, just living a day-to-day life with the education and being able to share that knowledge and share my experience and to not be afraid to voice what you're passionate about, even if it's not the most popular of topics. Even if a lot of people disagree with you, I think if your passion is founded in personal experience and education, sharing that may not be what someone would consider a social involvement or volunteer type of thing. But I think for me, that's one of the most valuable, and that's probably one that I do the most often.
Yeah. How about you, Kiana?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with you, David. Voicing the dissent is not always the easiest thing to do. I do it quite a bit, and it's not always, fun, but someone has to do it. So I agree that is a form of service. For me, I would say that self-care is a form of service because for those of us that are, for anybody really, but especially for those that are activists and on the front lines on a regular basis, you are doing a disservice to yourself if you're not making sure that you are at 100% operating capacity, and making sure that, you know, your mental health and spiritual well-being is intact. So I would say the self-care is also a form of service, just because we have to take care of ourselves in order to serve others, you know, the way that we really can. So
For sure. I feel like that might be one of the easiest ones to forget.
definitely.
Exactly.
Because I mean, those of us that are advocates, we're so used to doing things for other people, we often neglect ourselves. I mean, because we're just so used to giving everything that we have to others, that we put ourselves on the back burner. So it's very easy to forget, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so knowing what you know now and all of your wisdom for both of you and experiences, what advice would you give your college self?
So, college self or AB self?
You know,
Because,
we can go both.
okay, AB self, we probably should have got a different driver. I drove to Atlanta. I drove the school van to Atlanta with my participants, and that was my first time ever driving in Atlanta, and it was not the easiest thing. So I have not driven in Atlanta since. So it was very nerve-wracking, y'all. It's like GTA or something on those roads. So if I could go back, I would say get someone else to drive, because that was stressful. And then college me, I would just say take a couple of deep breaths, step outside of your comfort zone. I stepped out a bit, but I didn't, there were some opportunities that I missed because I was nervous and I'm an introvert. So it was some connections that I could have made and didn't. So I would just say really step out of your comfort zone and put yourself out there. You never know what'll happen.
Yeah. Alternative breaks, building those skills, Kiana. David, how about you?
Okay, what would I tell my college self? How much time do we have exactly?
Uh,
um, one of the
Not a
things
therapy session, but if you need it, we can do it.
one of the things I think would be don't be afraid to ask why. I think a lot of times, especially when we're young, um, and this ties into topics that you're passionate about and social justice. Don't be afraid to ask why things are the way that they are, because a lot of times the answer is I don't know. It's just the way that we do things. It's the way that things always been. So don't be afraid to press the envelope a little. If you want to know more about something, or you want to know why, truly why that is the way that is, don't be afraid to ask. Also, probably don't be afraid to talk about what drives you or something that you want to work towards. Don't be afraid to say it out loud, or to give it your all. Don't hold back. I think a lot of people have a lot of dreams that they never try out for, just because they feel that someone's not going to take them seriously, or that maybe they're not worth being heard. And so definitely voice what you want out of life. And kind of what Kiana said, give yourself a break. You're not going to conquer the world in the 4 years that you're there. You're, even if your priority is to be a social justice warrior, it's not going to happen overnight. You can't help all the causes at the same time. So the best thing that you can do is take care of yourself, and give yourself a break from time to time. Know that you can't do it all.
Yeah.
Yes, and I just want to add one more piece of advice. Make sure that you are making connections with your professors, because those are connections that you will have for a lifetime. And so if I could go back, I would probably deepen my relationship with several other professors, but the ones that I do have a relationship with are invaluable. And I would definitely recommend, even if you're nervous, go to their Zoom office hours, or however they're doing things these days. Just reach out and talk to them and get to know them, let them get to know you. It can be the start to a beautiful friendship. So
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, so we're going to wrap up with one more question. If anybody that's on the call has an additional question, you are also more than welcome to unmute yourselves and ask. You can drop it in the chat box and we will be sure to ask. But as far as the ones I have for you guys, what advice would you give for students who, whether they're at the beginning of that active citizen continuum and they're not quite asking questions of why, but they know they want to get involved in service, or even if they are on the front lines involved in service, what kind of advice would you give to students who really are wanting to be engaged in social justice and service work? Kiana, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I would just say from my personal experience, when that fire ignites and you are looking for a way to get involved in the community, I mean, just ask questions, reach out. I reached out to faculty members that I thought would know and would have information about the goings on in the community. Um, so I would just say reach out to different organizations, reach out to different people at the university, because believe me, there are people there who are interested in social justice and they will work hard to get you connected if you're interested. So just don't be afraid to ask those questions and to see how you can get involved, because we're always looking for more participants. We welcome new people. So just ask and reach out.
Yeah. David, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with Kiana a lot on just asking. There are a lot of issues out there that you might be very passionate about that you don't know about yet. I would also recommend, whatever your field of study is, take that into consideration. What my education is going to be and hopefully my future career be, how can I use that to have an impact? For example, I work in banking and finance now. Never thought that would be the case, but I use that education now to take that into the community, and I found a whole different world of people that I can help with financial wellness and education in regards to that. So just look at what you're already doing in your life. Look at, if your thing is, running marathons or, triathlons or, math, whatever it is, there's some type of social justice in there. You just have to look for it. And so kind of piggybacking off of that, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to do your own research. And if it doesn't exist already, do it yourself. AB wasn't always there. It took the initiative of a couple of students and some dedicated staff members to get that running. And here we are, almost a decade later. So don't be afraid. If there's something that you can't, something that's just not scratching the itch that you have, don't be afraid to do the research and go on your own and try something on your own and get something started on your own, because it happens every day. It's not as far-fetched as it sounds.
Yeah. Y'all are awesome. I wish I could have y'all around all the time.
Well, you come to Nashville anytime.
I know. I just need to. I want to connect all the time with y'all. Well, does anybody here have any questions? Let's do that first. Anybody on the Zoom call? I always hate this part because it's always just silent.
Crickets.
Yeah.
No extra points for you all.
Yeah. If they're in my FYE class on this call, they do have to write a reflection. So
Oh, look at that.
yeah. Because we love reflection and alternative breaks too. Well, do you, Kiana or David, have any parting words for us?
I just want to say thank you. It's a great opportunity to be able to continue to stay involved, to be there when it first started, and to be able to speak as, I'm out of college, I'm in the working force, I'm in a different geographical area. So just be able to touch base and to still share my experience and how it's carried with me today. I mean, being able to do that is so invaluable. And I can't thank you enough for giving people like me and Kiana the opportunity to come back and to share that with people who might be on the fence about joining, or, just looking for some type of direction. Just knowing that maybe they heard something from me and Kiana or you that sparked their interest to do something. It means so much to me, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'll also say this is one of the most beautiful experiences. Like, I feel like I'm being able to give back to the university, and I love that. So I do appreciate this opportunity. I also want to say to any students that are interested and hesitant to reach out and ask questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I am very responsive, and I love to hear from current students about their experiences. So please don't feel any type of way of reaching out to me. Bethany has my information, so feel free to shoot me an email anytime. That's what I'm here for. I love to, get connected with other people who are passionate. I just hate for anyone to be passionate about an issue and feeling like they don't know where to start or how to get involved. Because I was, at that stage at one point. And then just, like I said, don't be afraid to start doing things at the university. I made my first college friends through alternative break. So that tells you something right there. Like, this is a really meaningful experience. And you never know what kind of connections and what kind of life-changing things can happen. So I would say just get involved.
Thank you both. I am better for knowing both of you, that's for sure. If it's okay with both of y'all, I know Kiana, you just said that it was. David, is it okay for me to share your contact if anyone wants to reach out to you as well?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Okay. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's better to hear from you guys than it is to constantly hear from me. And I'm okay with that. But I think one of the things y'all brought up that really is important that we don't always think about is sharing our experiences is service, and that the things that we know to be true and the things that we have experienced and done and seen. And so I appreciate both of you taking the time to share yours. And because this is recorded, we'll be able to share it a lot. And same goes for the people on this call too. There may be things that you guys have experienced that that is there for you to tell and share, and that's how we're able to kind of grow and move forward. And so I thank you for spending your Wednesday night with me and everybody else. But yeah, we'll wrap up there. But I appreciate it, and y'all are both wonderful. It's great to catch up and hear about kind of the things y'all have going on too. So I'm glad I got to see y'all.
You too. Thanks, Bethany.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Donna. Nice to meet you.
You too. Let's stay in touch.
I know.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody else. And we will wrap it up there. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.